Every year, over 200 players hear their name called in the NFL draft, and everybody has a different journey. For yours, it started right here at Klein Cain High School. So what if I had told that young man that in a couple of years, he would be one of the top picks in the draft? He would have said what?
You know, he was destined for it. You know, just a kid being from Houston, you know, just having the opportunity to, you know, be able to go to the next level. I always told myself whenever I got the opportunity, I was gonna take it.
One thing about the NFL draft is there's so much of an unknown, right? Like you don't control where you're going, when you're going. How have you dealt with the process of not knowing what your future holds?
You know, it just being a blessing, you know, just to be in that situation. Growing up, you know, that's always been my dream to, you know, be able to go through that process. You know, now that it's actually here, it's kind of crazy.
4-3 flat. Sign me up for that. Matthew Golden.
People talk about like crazy questions. Have you got one of those? Anything unique from one of the organizations?
I wouldn't say crazy. You know, they probably ask me about Quinn and Arch, like who I like more. You know, try to get me in that type of situation.
What's the answer?
The answer, you know, both of the quarterbacks good. You know, I got a lot of time playing with Quinn, so you know, that was my QB.
This was you in high school. When you watch some of these clips here, what type of memories come to mind?
Man, just running past the DBs, honestly. I mean, I remember most of them games though. You know, most of them was fun. So you know, just looking back and just seeing the guys that I played with, you know, the journey that we went through when I was younger, and now looking at where I'm at now, you know, it was truly a blessing.
What was the play call here? Is it just golden go deep? What was you?
I couldn't even tell you. I just know me and my quarterback was always on the same page, so I knew whenever the ball was snapped, he was gonna find me.
So from Klein, you went to U of H, and then your freshman year, you played with a guy by the name of Tank Dell.
Corner, open, caught, Tank Dell.
What was it like coming in as a freshman and playing with a talent like that?
It was a cool experience, you know, just being around him and learning the game from him when I was at a young age. I took a lot in from that, so you know, just being able to learn from him and him elevate my game, it helped me overall as a player. He was the same dude every day, regardless if he wanted to work or not. He always put his best foot forward, and you know that's what I took that from him. So you know, I try to elevate my game, you know, just from learning the things that he did.
Let's go back to these games here, because ECU, you guys both put up monster numbers. I know both of you guys had over 100 yards. Same thing with SMU. What kind of comes to mind when you look back on some of these highlights where y'all were terrorizing the AAC together?
It was definitely a 1-2 punch, you know. Man, it's just crazy, you know, because I could never tell myself, or I would have never knew that I was gonna play with Tank, and then him being the player that he is now. I mean, it's just cool overall. So being around him and just being his brother, I mean, I took a lot from him, man.
So after U of H, you transferred to UT. From the fan base to the facilities to just the level of talent around you, what would you say was the biggest difference being a Cougar versus being a Longhorn?
Man, the city, you know, they fans in general, you know, they love UT. So, you know, anywhere you go, you got UT fans. So, I mean, their fan base, you know, it's true. And, you know, they took me in with open arms, you know, so all I can do is appreciate them. But, you know, just the whole college experience, you know, I feel like UT got the whole thing.
You know, they say Sark is an offensive mind, just playing for him every day. How did you see that, that he's a little more unique from maybe some other offensive-minded coaches?
You know, definitely being able to draw up any play he wants. Disguise it different, you know, but it being the same play in general, man. You know, just being able to play with him, being able to play with him in that offense, you know, it really helped me elevate my game all around.
Yeah. How did he help set you up for success?
I would say, you know, to be able to play in the offense, you got to block in the run game. And, you know,
that's a good answer. Scouts gonna love that.
Yeah, took a lot of pride in that, you know, just that's a 1-2 thing. So, you know, being able to dig out safeties and, you know, just do the extra dirty work that the team needs.
There's an old saying, big time players make big time plays in big time games.
Ewers to pass, and right in stride, they get going with Golden.
What kind of comes to mind when you think about the performance that you had in the college football playoffs?
Our back against the wall, so you know it's want to go home. You know, that's how I treated it. So, I mean that was a big game for us, and you know I was just mentally locked in that whole game. So.
And turning the corner is Golden. He is dynamic.
When the lights are bright, backs against the wall, as you said. It's your time to shine. How much do you appreciate those opportunities?
I mean, I definitely cherish them, you know, because, you know, I'm granted the opportunity to do this at the highest level. So, you know, just being able to go out there and showcase my talents and then, you know, just show the world who I am.
Why you do my Sun Devils like that, man?
Hey, they got to go home, bro. We had to send them home.
So keeping it buck with me, how concerned were you that you guys might drop this game? Because there were some moments.
Yeah. I would say I thought we was going to come in. It was going to be a blowout game, if you want to be honest. But, you know, they came out there and played a good game. They played a good game.
Texas must convert 4th and 13.
So let's talk about the catch. 4th down, season on the line. Walk me through from the huddle to the celebration.
So we knew what play we had called. I'm not going to call it because we still going to run that. But, you know, Quinn checked the protection because they were about to bring a blitz. So he put the O-lineman in max protection. And the route that I had was a cop route, which is a corner post. They played cover 3. You know, that safety played too far down. And, you know, once I stuck the corner, the outside safety, and I took the post, I knew it was over with. That play in that game, you know, it didn't hit me until really after I had got the 2-point conversion. But, you know, I mean, our back was against the wall this play. You know, it was either win or go home. So, you know, just being able to have that, I mean, it was cool, bro. It was cool.
How would you describe just the emotions coming out of that huddle where you knew, look, you know, if you guys don't convert here, our season is over, and being able to ultimately be the guy they trusted and make the play?
Man, they were definitely high. You know, I don't show a lot of emotions, but, you know, I was turned after I caught that ball. Like I said, man, just being in that opportunity at that time, bro, it was truly a blessing for me.
He's going for the corner. He's got it.
When you look back on UT's history, of course, you have the Vince Young moment over USC. Is this up there for you?
A lot of people say it is, man. So, I mean, that's cool. It kind of seemed like people forgot my last name. You know, they started to call me 4th and 13 instead of Golden, bro. So that's what they started to call me down there in Austin.
So you're watching yourself, especially in these route running here. You said that was probably the best part of your game, that skill set. Why?
You know, I know I can get open anywhere on the field. You know, I got that type of confidence. And, you know, to be able to play in that offense, that's the type of confidence you got to have. I always approach it like I got a chip on my shoulder and, you know, I got something to prove.
At what point did you really feel like route running became one of your better skills?
You know, definitely as the season went on, you know, we started playing better opponents. You know, I take that and, you know, I just try to go about that like I got something to prove, like I said. Just being able to go against the top teams and go out there and showcase what you could do. You know I could play anywhere on the field. So whenever that time comes and the ball supposed to come to me, I'm gonna get open.
Walk me through this one.
So that's a man beater route. We knew it was man coverage to the boundary. I got 14-yard curl, which I can convert if they played a different coverage. You know, I wanted to make him feel my vertical presence on the go and then just snap down. And you know that's something that I learned in my game to, you know, get better at. And then through the season, it just happened.
One thing I noticed too is you seem to like out routes a lot. What's the key against separation on those?
You know, just attacking his leverage, just depending on where he's playing at. You know, you want to make him feel your vertical presence and then be able to snap out your break.
Do you have a favorite route running moment from this season?
Yeah, I would definitely say them Georgia games. You know, we ran a ton of different routes. So right here, for instance, we knew they played man coverage, and I had a corner route. So I mean, I cooked them off the line, and then at that point, you know, I just got open for Quinn.
Another part of your game to me that really stands out is your ball skills, especially, of course, when it's, you know, headed your way. How has that part of your game evolved over the years?
You know, I try to treat it like that's gonna be my only opportunity of the game. So if I treat it like that, I got no choice but to make the play.
Well, walk me through this one against my Sun Devils.
Yeah, I had a go ball, so you know, I kept my leverage and gave Quinn enough space to throw the ball, and you know, he gave me a good ball. I just had to come down and make the play.
So this one's against Florida?
Yeah.
Do you remember about this one?
Yeah, so I had a double move on. I want to say they played cover 3, and that's one of our best plays you run against cover 3. I mean, like I said, you know, point of the game where you just got to get open, and that's what I did. And you know, Quinn did a great job giving me the ball.
5 years from now, when people look back on this conversation and they see how your game has developed and your career as a pro, they will be saying what about Matthew Goat?
He a dog, you know, and you know, he always got something to prove. You know, he never gets complacent. You know, he always got something to prove, and you know, he always gonna put his best foot forward. So you know, just being able to have the opportunity to go out there and showcase what I could do, just know what you're gonna get out of me. It's gonna be a dog.